Chicago Cubs playoff heroes. Who is your go-to guy to be a hero for the Cubs this postseason?
Well, Luke, before my grand reveal, let's just say this is a really great conversation to have, that we're back in the playoffs
enjoyable.
Just in general.
It is enjoyable.
So now we get to do a bit of our picks. When we talk about October heroes, there's a certain criteria that I want to follow, right? The first one is, obviously, you want to pick someone that's likely to have some production, a guy that, frankly, that you need to show up in a playoff series to go deep. But there's also a little bit of that ingredient of, there is a little bit of an unlikely hero. So I'm going to pick a wild card, and I'm also going to pick an October hero. And the wild card might be a guy that maybe doesn't necessarily go on to have a Hall of Fame career, but he'll have a Hall of Fame Chicago career, as in we buy him steak, we buy him beer for the rest of his life.
Anthony Rizzo.
Anthony Rizzo treatment. Absolutely. Or the Miggy Montero Grand Slam treatment. That kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So let's start first with who I think is the most likely to be my October hero for the Chicago Cubs. And I'm going to go with Michael Busch. Michael Busch, a guy who, as of this taping, just hit his 29th home run. A guy who, out of nowhere, I think no one had on their bingo card that by the end of this year, he was going to be leading the team, possibly in home runs. A guy who improves year after year, who's young, who's great defensively, and a guy who hits at the top of the lineup. So if we want this to go the way that we want it to, and hopefully Matt Shaw is on first or second base, Michael Busch can come up and drive him in. He can jumpstart a lineup and get us a quick lead early on in the first inning. He's got power. He has great plate discipline for the most part. He knows the zone really well. So I think Michael Busch could be that unlikely new October hero that can maybe be that difference maker to help us go deep into the playoffs.
I like to go... First of all, I like the Michael Busch pick, and I see your Michael Busch, and I raise it one Cade Horton.
Oh, wow. Can't argue there.
See, I like the hot hand, and hopefully Sarah now could take my hands and put a fireball in my hands, just a burning fireball, like the sun is in my hands. Cade Horton has been so blistering hot the second half of the season that he has gone to the top of my list for Game 1 starter. First, he started as the number 4 starter. Then he went, well, you might have to make him your number 3 starter. Then I said, well, you might want to put him between the two lefties. And then he's been so dominant that I would say, you know what? He's the real deal. You've got to put him in there. And I could see Cade Horton being a guy. You know how sometimes you get a playoff series and you say, well, I didn't expect to run into that buzzsaw twice.
Yeah.
Cade Horton's the type of guy where I could see him single-handedly winning 2 games in one series because he keeps the other team shut down so much that even if the Cubs offense isn't playing well, which it's been a little bit of a roller coaster, Horton keeps them in it and gives them a chance to win it late. I will say there is a series where Cade Horton is going to win not 1, but 2 games for the Chicago Cubs.
And that's such a great call, too, because if you're the opponent playing the Chicago Cubs, you're like, we have to win tonight because they got Horton going Game 5 or Game 6,
That's right.
And we've played that game on the other side of it before. And the part that I think you have a good shot at winning this one, because I will also tell you that he has been one of the best pitchers in baseball in the second half. He's only 24 years old. And if he can ride that onto the national stage against a team like the Dodgers or the Phillies, when all the eyes of Baseball America are watching him, he could already elevate himself up to superstar status. And what is that? That's the makings of a hero right there.
Yeah, he has not been afraid of matchups against Skeens or Skubal.
Yeah.
He's not afraid of the spotlight. He'll be ready for it. All right. Now, how about a wild card? Though, you know, Busch and Horton aren't really bold statements. How about a wild card name that you might throw out there to be a hero for the Cubs in the postseason?
Yeah, so when I think wild card, I think he's like kind of a Chicago sports trivia question at a bar on Tuesday, right? I mentioned Miggy Montero's Grand Slam comes to mind, right? Or Gary Gaetti squeezing the pop-up in 98 when they won the wild card.
Mike Montgomery.
Yeah, a guy that only the Chicago Cubs fans would know that made a major contribution to hopefully a deep playoff run for the Cubs. And I'm going with the woodsman. I'm going with the guy I'm going with the guy that helped save the realm in Game of Thrones against the White Walkers. I'm going Andrew Kittredge on this one. He's been thrust into the closer's role, and he's done a pretty darn good job at doing it. Now, to be fair, there is good news possibly about Daniel Palencia coming back and pitching, but we don't know what's going to happen there. We don't know if we can run him back-to-back nights, so even if Palencia comes back and Brad Keller's awesome, there may be a situation where it could be bases loaded and we need to get out of a jam. Or it could be a ninth inning and we need 3 outs, and in comes Andrew Kittredge straight out of his cabin with a can of beans.
With a banjo and a baseball bat.
Let me tell you about Andrew Kittredge, children. And I'm going with him as a guy that maybe we look back and say, man, I'm so happy that we went out and got this guy at the deadline because we're never going to forget him. And it's that small component that helps get the Chicago Cubs to hopefully where they want to go.
Where is Mark Carmen's harmonica when you want it? All right, so I reserve the right to completely contradict everything I said with my first choice. I said I like to go with a hot hand, the fireball, right? Now I'm going to go with just talent. The least hot guy there is. We haven't seen Kyle Tucker. He's been hurt.
Wow.
First it was the fractured hand, then it's the calf injury. It's been a slow return. But my wild card for the Cubs is the biggest wild card of all wild cards. It's the double joker.
The ace up the sleeve.
Yes, it's Kyle Tucker because talent-wise, he's still the most talented player on the team. And he's still the superstar player on the team this year. And if he's healthy, he can have a bigger impact than anybody else on the Cubs roster. So my wild card is Kyle Tucker. I'm not guaranteeing it's going to happen, but if you get him right, he has the best chance to have the biggest impact. So my wild card is Tucker.
If Kyle Tucker is your wild card and he shows up and he's Kyle Tucker again, don't get me started, Cubs fans. Don't get me started with how far I think that we could possibly go in this particular playoff run, because it could be a special season on our hands. If you have that wild card and you bring it out and it's that ace and it's Kyle Tucker the way that we know Kyle Tucker at least the first few months of this season, watch out.
So what we're saying is our band right now for the postseason, the band we're forming, is lead vocals, Cade Horton.
Yes.
Michael Busch, lead guitar.
Shredding.
Kyle Tucker on the drums.
Or a bass. He's a tall kind of bass guy kind of thing.
And, of course, Kitty Cat Kittredge on the banjo.